I'm Cheryl Misato. I am the chairman of the Latimer Lutheran Church Preservation Society.
I'm Pam Tennyson-Rent, so I'm vice chair of the board, and I'm really a big historic preservation proponent.
The history is that it started as a military chapel at the Harrington Army Airfield Base during World War II. And it served as that capacity for approximately 3 years until the war ended. And so when the base was closed, a lot of those buildings in the base were sold off and moved off to different, places, which I should explain that also was what they call an 800 series regimental chapel that served as a multi-denominational place of worship for these soldiers that would be located on these bases across the United States.
There were weddings held there and just so many celebrations. I mean, the building's 80 years old, so it's in amazing shape. The Historic Society has already declared that it is potentially eligible for the Historic Register. We've submitted a nomination form to get it on the state register and the national register.
Why is it important to get onto the state and national historic registers?
The local recognition, but also nationwide recognition, and we will also be eligible for some grants, which would be helpful in getting some of our restoration or preservation projects done, because it's got original siding, original windows, and it's just so intact compared to many of the other regimental chapels that are out there. So
of the few that are left.
Yeah,
There's
there are
not very
few.
many left.
Yeah, you're right. Very few left. But the windows, for example, are 16 pane over 16 pane, so that means many small windows to, restore. So it's very labor intensive, thus very expensive, but they're beautiful seated glass and just very nice. And the interiors, pine wainscoting and even the siding's original. But we need to paint it, and then we need some wood to be restored on the windows, and of course all that glazing needs to be repaired. Of course, we see it as significant for many reasons. We have, all this local heritage that we're also preserving. There's so many memories with it being a local center point for the community for 72 years. It's so many special memories, and we're gathering those too.
Right, yeah. One of the other major projects that, again, would require fairly significant funding is that we had a restoration specialist come to the church to evaluate the front steps. They are in dire need of some attention. While we're doing that, go ahead and add on a handicap ramp to that, because currently does not have any handicap entrance into the church. And we really want to be able to serve people with disabilities so they are able to enter into the building.
What are some of the things that you've done, and what's the most fun?
I would say, I know what mine is. It's the Christmas caroling in the chapel.
Yeah,
We held it last year in 2022 in December. We're planning on doing it again. It's a repeat that we want to do because it was very well received. And just growing up, we always attended Christmas Eve service there at Latimer, and it was just very beautiful. Just it's a special memory for me as a child growing up. And so we kind of tried to recreate that.
And anytime we have an event or a fundraiser, we also have an open house. And I especially like giving a historical tour and pointing out all the various features of the church and how, intact they are, and going and looking at the original plans that we have, which I actually have a copy of. But it's nice, I set those out and we look at those, and people are just amazed at how the church is still the same. It's or the chapel, I should say. It is a regimental chapel, so it's really fun to do that. It's just an amazing building. And
this is your second year in Match Day.
Yes.
What did it mean to you last year, and what does it mean to you to be in Match Day this year?
The projects that we talked about, restoring the 20 windows on the building, restoring the front steps, putting on a handicap ramp, painting the exterior of the building requires money. It gets our name out there, it gets our purpose out there, what we're about.
Consider us. I mean, we have a great group that has really long ties to this chapel church, and we're very dedicated, and we're here for the long haul, and we will ensure those funds are used right and They will go to preservation, number one.
Thing too that we actually have incorporated using some volunteers, which has significantly been very helpful towards us. One of them being the White City Willing Workers 4-H Club. They helped us clean up back in May, and they did a phenomenal job. I mean, the kids and then the mothers who came there with the chainsaws and their weed whips and so forth, they just went at it and it was done.
Community inspiration with this. So that's important for our donors to know about. It isn't just about preserving a building and letting it sit. We've brought a big purpose to the community and a place to gather too. So it is important.